So we're almost live. For those of y'all buddies just joining in, let us know what role do you play in tech, in the chat, and also where are you based out of. And if you're transitioning to design from another field, let us know as well. Cool, awesome. So we're live. Welcome everyone. We're so excited to have our buddy Vicky here from Academyx giving us a workshop on how to build no-code websites. I'm here today with Design Buddies, so I'm going to quickly share a few slides of Design Buddies and a quick house rule. So I'm just going to share my screen really quick. So I've seen a lot of familiar names here, so this quick. Design Buddies is a really large design community. We have a lot of wonderful workshops like this to help you level up your design career. We also have a lot of resources on our social media and our Discord channel. So Anna dropped our links before, so feel free to connect with us as well. And just a couple of house rules. Thank you, V, for dropping the chat. Events are recorded, and by the time you grant consent, if you do not wish to be part of any recording, welcome to turn off your camera or tune in live on YouTube as well, which you can just search Design Buddies. We should be like the first one. Feel free to engage in chat. If any of Vicky says resonates with you, feel free to just comment in chat. It's meant to be an open discussion. And also we have a networking sheet, so please keep all promotional links in there, and definitely connect with each other. We want our buddies to get to know each other as well. And we won't have a Slido this time. We'll have questions on Zoom. And after Vicky's workshop and before the Q&A, we'll be taking a group selfie and a wave for Instagram story. If you also wish to turn on your camera, we have some Zoom backgrounds y'all can use. These are Design Buddies Zoom backgrounds. You're welcome to use them for all of our events, your work. Share takeaways on social media, tag Design Buddies, tag Academyx. All the links will be shared in the chat. Feel free to hop into our Discord afterwards as well and just have fun and be respectful. And yeah, with that, I'll pass it over to Vicky.
Thank you, Grace. Nice to meet everybody. Thank you for coming. And I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can just jump into it. Cool. So you guys can probably see my screen now. Let me know if you can on the chat. And I'll just do a quick intro so you guys can learn a little bit about everything. So hi, everybody. My name is Vicky. And I am Brazilian. I'm also a graphic designer, and I work at Wix as a design and product advisor. And I'm here today to talk to you guys about Editor X. But first, I want to give you guys some context and explain a little bit on how I first started using Wix and how I got into using Editor X. So we're going to go on a timeline back to 2006. This is actually when I enrolled in university to pursue a bachelor's in graphic design. And by 2012, I took a course on HTML and CSS to learn how to code websites. 2 hours in that course, I honestly felt like I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't good at coding, and this is something that I didn't enjoy doing. So I decided I would need basically a builder moving forward to design my websites. And then in 2013, I had one of my best friends ask me for help to build her portfolio. And that's the first time I actually used Wix. And in January, I was already using it proficiently, creating sites for friends, family, and eventually my clients. And then fast forward to 2020, February was when Editor X was first launched on its beta version. I saw the event when they launched it, and I quickly enrolled to get beta access to it. And in June 2020, I actually started working at Wix. In January, I became a product advisor. And in February, they just launched Editor X out of beta. So enough about me. Let's talk what's important here. Let's talk Editor X. So I want you guys to meet Editor X. This is our fully responsive creation platform that we have. You will see that everything will adapt basically into every breakpoint that we have. So this is gonna allow the websites to basically adjust fluidly between different breakpoints. breakpoints are going to be the different screens that we're going to have. So it's going to look great on desktop, on tablet, and on mobile as well. All of this with code-free interactions, so you don't need to code to use EditorX, which is pretty amazing. And you have full design control using advanced tools like CSS grids and Flexbox layouters that are going to automatically adjust your design on the different breakpoints as you stretch and shrink your viewport. All of this while collaborating with your teammates. So we'll be able to basically have multiple people on the same site working at the same time, just to speed up the process and have more people joining in the building. And I hope you guys are ready because we're going to get started. So I'll click here and I'll just show you a little bit of what we can do. So if you access editorx.com/website-templates, you're going to get to this page here. We can either start from scratch, and we'll also have a ton of really nice, basically templates that we can use for everything. We have for portfolio, for landing pages, but today we're actually going to start from scratch. So we're going to rebuild this site that I made here. You guys can see that this is just a simple landing page for San Milo, the UX designer. We can see that this is gonna adjust on all the different breakpoints that we have. So the design will look awesome on every screen. And I added some cool stuff right here. So I did put a menu here on the side. We're gonna make a little portfolio page. And all of this, it's using some Flexbox technology and also some grids and a few more cool features that I'm going to show you guys. So if we just get back to home, I just want to show you guys some code-free interactions. As I hover on this area right here, you'll see that this is automatically going to move around and be interactive. So now that we checked out a little bit of the templates, let's jump into building the site. First, before we build, I just want to give you guys like a quick tour of the workspace so you guys know where to access the tools that we're going to need on building the site today. And we're recording the session, so if you guys just want to rewatch the recording and do step by step, you can do that as well. Good news that we have here, it's stick to the end of this webinar today, because we're going to give you guys some coupons that you guys can use to start building our EditorX website. Maria is going to share that on the chat real soon. Cool. So let's get started. Let me just remove this out of here. So starting here on top, we're going to have site. Here we have access to some basic stuff like accessing the site history, setting up the SEO for your site, or jumping into the dashboard where we're going to have all the website settings. Here on tools, we'll have the design libraries. This is a really cool feature from EditorX that will basically allow you to create libraries with typography, colors, and specific assets that you want to use while you're building. And the really cool thing here is that you can actually share that with the team. So if you have anybody else working with you, we all have access to the same fonts, colors, and design assets that you have created. Over here, I know this is a no-code webinar, but if you code, you can actually activate Velo, and this will allow you to input custom code on your site and really take the website to the next level. Under help here, you will be able to see some of the tours. This is going to help you like get used to the workspace of EditorX. You can check the design libraries, concurrent editing, and much more in here, especially Academyx. That's where we have all amazing videos about EditorX. If you're getting started, if it's your first time, we're going to have tons of resources in here. On the right side here, we can preview the site and publish it to make the changes go live. And then moving ahead, we're going to have our creation bar here. On this add button, we'll find elements to add into our site. On quick adds, we have titles, paragraphs, buttons that we can easily drag and drop into the canvas. We'll also have the design assets. Those are going to be any specific sections or buttons, containers that you have already designed and styled. You can actually right-click on those elements that you have on your canvas and save them to reuse on different sites of your account. We also have pre-designed compositions. Those are pretty amazing. We're going to use a couple of them building the site today. But basically what those compositions will do is they're going to be set up to be responsive on every breakpoint. So if I just drop this in here and I start changing the size of my canvas, you guys will notice that this will automatically shift the layout to fit well on every breakpoint. Then we're also going to have here some layouting tools. We're going to work with the grids today. Those are the CSS grids. We also have layouters, which are based on Flexbox technology, which they will automatically adjust on every breakpoint. And then we just have more elements like buttons, text, menus. If you have a contact form or social, you can add those elements in your canvas. And on the bottom, we're going to see some Wix native applications. Those are basically functionalities that you can add to your site. So for example, if you want to have an e-commerce with one click, you can add stores or bookings, events, and we have much more inside of the Wix app market. Moving ahead, we'll have the layers panel. This is how we'll be able to see the structure of your site and then the elements inside of the layers panel. Here we can basically change the name if we need to. So I could call this my first fold. And we'll be able to tell the hierarchy of the elements in here as well. We have our site masters, basically headers and footers. We'll talk more about the site masters later. And we have site pages here. So if you want to add more pages into your site, you can easily do so by clicking here on the bottom on add new page, and you can add a standard new page to your site. Moving ahead, we're going to have our site styles. That's going to be the typography, colors, and page transitions of our site. I have already used the design library, so I'm actually going to upload the fonts that I'm going to use for this webinar today right now. So clicking here on design libraries, I'm just going to select the design buddies library, and you can see it's already changing the fonts because I already pre-set up because I didn't want to waste any time. For the colors, same thing. We're going to be able to set up our color palette that we're going to be using throughout the site. I'm also going to take this time to just upload my color palette in here. And page transitions, where we can change the transitions between the pages of our site. Here we have the Wix app market, where we can find not only Wix native application, but third-party applications as well that we can integrate easily into our site. So any additional functionalities will be found here. And then moving ahead, we're going to have an option right here to switch between pages on our site. In the middle, what we have here are the breakpoints. Those are going to be basically the different sizes of viewports that we're going to have on our site. By standard, any new page we open comes with 3 breakpoints, which is the desktop, tablet, and mobile version. If you click on the 3 dots right here, you'll be able to customize those breakpoints. So if you need to edit a specific breakpoint, or maybe even add more, you can have up to 6 breakpoints, meaning that you can change the design of your site 6 different times as it adjusts between the different screen sizes. I'm actually going to work with 3 because that's enough to get your site super responsive. And then if you feel the need for an extra breakpoint, you can always add an extra one. And I'm going to really quickly talk a little bit about the breakpoint rules. So what's going to happen is whatever we add here on the largest breakpoint will automatically cascade down to tablet and to the mobile version as well. So cascading means the design changes on the largest breakpoint will automatically cascade into the smaller ones, but we can always make changes. So maybe on tablet version, I want to change the color of this text into maybe an orange. And this is going to cascade down to mobile, but it's not going to affect the largest breakpoint. And if I want to change even further my design, so maybe on mobile, I actually want to change the color of this to a different color and maybe even change position and sizing of this, I can do that as well. And our design is basically going to automatically switch once we reach a specific point on our breakpoint division. So rule number one, always start designing on the largest breakpoint to make sure that all your design cascade down. And rule number two, it's not actually a rule, it's just more of a design tip. It's whenever you're designing on Editor X, instead of toggling between breakpoints here on the top, you want to make sure to use the drag handles that we have here to slowly resize your canvas. So this way you can see the transition states between one breakpoint and another and make sure that your design looks responsive on every breakpoint. Cool. Moving ahead here, we're going to have undo redo button. Here we can add comments. So if you're working with anybody else on your site, you can right click on a specific element, add a comment. You can tag somebody from your team and tell them, for example, hey, change color. They will get notified and they can either reply or resolve, and we can filter those comments as well. Here on the far right side, we're going to have a super important tool. This is going to be our inspector panel. So the inspector panel will basically change according to the elements that we're clicking on to always display the properties of the element that we're clicking on. And in here, for example, on this section, I'm going to have a layout tab where I can align the elements, resize them. We're going to have a fluid units and fixed units. We can change the overflow behavior, the positioning, add padding in case we want to make sure that we have some safe areas on specific corners of our design. And we can set anchors in here as well. On the design tab, usually we'll be able to change colors depending on the elements. We're going to have stroke, borders, and so on. And the last button that we have here will actually allow us to create the interactions with no code. Cool. So what I'll do now that we just did a quick review of the workspace, is I'm going to start building our site. So let's jump back here real quick to review what we're going to create. So basically what I have, it's a big section right here, and I kind of split this into two. So anytime you hover on the bottom area right here, you have the interaction happening. So let's set up first the section and the grid, and we're going to start adding some elements. So for this design right now, I'm first going to select the section here, and using the layout tab, I'm going to resize this to be 100 VH in height. This means that this section is always going to take 100% of the browser height. I'm also going to not display the header and the footer for now because I don't actually need them. So right clicking on that element, I'm not going to click delete because that's going to entirely delete the item. I just don't want them to display. So I'm going to kind of like hide them for now. So I'll do this for the header and for the footer as well. And we have our 100 VH section right here ready to go. So I'm going to start by applying a grid so we can create this division here between top and bottom where my interaction occurred. So I'll apply a grid. I'll do a 1x2. And after I apply this grid is only visible to us to help us lay out the site. I can actually click on this grid and move it around to adjust it if I need to. But usually what I like to do is adjust the grid, edit it, and this is going to open up the grid so we can set up the specific sizing and behavior for the grid. So right here, I'm actually going to use percentage, and you guys will see we have a big options in terms of units that we can use. So if you're more into fractions, percentage, pixels, we have a whole set. I'm actually going to do the top row as 55%. And the bottom one as 45. If you guys need to add gaps to create your layout, you can use the gap buttons in here to create that space between the grid elements. For this example, I'm not going to need any gaps, so I'm just going to set this to 0 and hit done. So I have my section, my grid. Now I need to start adding some elements. I'm going to start with the image. So coming here on media, I'm going to upload my own media. you guys will see that we have tons of options on how to import images. So from Facebook, Instagram, Dropbox, and we also have free media from Wix that you're free to use on your site, as well as Shutterstock with discounted prices and Unsplash too. I actually pre-selected the images for this example. So I'm actually gonna go into my board and here into the design buddies, and I'll select my first image. So as I drop this image in here and I move it around, you guys are gonna see those dotted lines on the top, on the left. This is what we call docking and positioning. So if I open my inspector here on the layout tab, we'll be able to see that this image right now, it's positioned anchored to the top by 98 pixels and also to the left by 7.6%. This is automatically done. So as I move it, we'll change the docking automatically. But if you don't like the automatic docking, you can always redock and position however you want it. So we can use this basically to position the elements inside of the editor. I actually want this image to stretch and take that whole area. So if I just click on the stretch button right here, you're gonna see that it's gonna stretch to take the top cell. And if I have this hovering over both cells, it will basically stretch to take that entire area. Now that the image is stretched, I want to make sure that it's positioning on the right place, on the place I want it to. So what I'll do is I'll use the focal point right here to determine exactly where I want the focal point to be. So I'm going to place this around here, just so we have space for the text on the bottom and it's not covering her face. Cool. So image set, background set. Now we need to basically add the elements on the bottom for text and buttons, and also the container to create the interactions. So clicking in here, I'm gonna add a few elements. I'm gonna drop a container in this area. And I'm actually gonna stretch that container as well. And then if we right click on it, we can also quickly add elements on the canvas itself. So you don't need to click on the add button to fetch more stuff. So I'm just gonna add a title. And I'm gonna resize this a little bit because I want it to be bigger. So I'm just gonna do 120. And I'm gonna duplicate this. So Command D will do it if you're on a Mac. If you're on a PC, Control D. And we can change the sizing of this text too. So I'll just set this to be 80. This is gonna be my subtitle. And I'll just drop in a button right on the bottom here. So as we add those elements in here, once we start resizing, you guys are gonna notice a couple of weird things happening. Not to worry, we can definitely fix that. So first thing you guys will see, it's basically that the elements start to overlap and they kind of behave weirdly. This is happening because we don't have any set margins between elements above and below. So what we need to do to fix this issue, it's basically stack the elements that we have here. So selecting with Shift, all the text, the buttons and everything, just gonna place them a little bit better. Selecting with Shift, we're gonna be able to stack those elements. And now we actually have margins between elements above and below here. So this means they are not gonna overlap, but still I have a text that it's not resizing. So we need to do a few extra things. So selecting this text here on top, I actually want this text to scale as we change breakpoint sizes. And I don't wanna go and scale for each breakpoint. So selecting edit text, I'll have this button right here that says scale text. And what this will allow us to do is basically set a minimum and maximum sizing so the text automatically adjusts according to the breakpoints. So right here, I'll set this to be 30 and 120. I'm also going to change some of the settings here with the spacing and the character spacing. And I'm actually going to make this stack big enough. So I'll make it 90%. and I'll center it and align it to the top. And all the elements inside of the stack, I need them to be aligned as well. So selecting the stack, we can both set item spacing, so space between those items. I'm gonna do 20 pixels, and I'm gonna align all the items to the left side. Cool, so this text right here, it's adjusting. I'm just gonna do the same text scaling for the bottom part. So selecting here, I can scale text. I'm gonna set it from 18 to 50. And for this button, I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger. I'll actually make it fluid and I'll set it to 80%. But I don't want this to get too big or too small. So what I'm gonna do is set it to fluid, and I'll actually set a minimum width so this button doesn't shrink too much, because nobody wants to click on a button with their pinky when they're on mobile. So I'm gonna put 200 pixels in here, and this is gonna make everything shrink pretty nice. Cool, so text is set. I'm just gonna change the settings that I have here. So this is gonna be Sam Milo. She's gonna be a UI UX designer. And right here, we can double click to change text. So we can put view portfolio. And we can set the link to the portfolio page once we get that page done. So just hold your thought right there. Cool, so this is scaling okay, not bad at all. We can always make more adjustments on smaller breakpoints if we feel the need. What I'll do now is basically remove the background of this container. So clicking here on the design tab, I'll change opacity, and I'm actually gonna apply the interaction on that container. So selecting the container, we're gonna click on interactions, and I'll add a hover interaction into it. Right here, you guys can see that we have a bunch of preset interactions. So you don't even need to create the interaction necessarily. You could use one of the preset options. But for this example, I'm actually gonna do our own custom interaction. So selecting custom interactions, we're gonna have basically the different states: timing, play, and done. And depending on the element that I select here, I'll be able to change the settings for it. So I'm just gonna change the character spacing from the top one. Then I'm gonna select the bottom one and add spacing. And right here, we can see the timing for each animation that we just created. So it does have easing, but for this example, I just like to keep it without it. So it's just gonna be linear with no easing. And you can change this, and you can change transition time as well to just fit your needs. Cool, so the interactions is set. I'm just gonna hit done right here. And as we hit preview, we should be able to hover over the area and see the interaction we just created. So some text is gonna shrink and some is gonna expand. Cool, so this part is done. Now we need to create this menu right here. So for this, I did go ahead and use a vertical section. I'll teach you guys how to add that. So clicking outside of my canvas, clicking over here on this area, we're gonna see an option to add a section, a vertical section. So I'm just gonna add one here on the corner. And again, using the inspector panel, we'll be able to set the adjustments for this. So I actually want this to be 100 pixels wide. And I'm just gonna throw some elements in here. So a social bar. And for the social bar, I'm gonna change the layout, make it vertical. And I can also select the social links that I wanna use. So maybe I don't have Twitter or YouTube, just those three. And I'm gonna position this centered. And like we saw before, the docking and positioning, I'm just gonna position this 30 pixels from the bottom. So it's always gonna stay there. Okay, now I need a logo. So I'm just gonna take a shape, place it in here. I'm gonna resize this a little bit, and I'll replace the basic shape for my logo. So again, I have it saved it in my boards, but we also have a bunch of options that you can use. And I'm just gonna use this asset here, and I'll make it fixed because I don't want this to grow and shrink. Since my section itself, it's set to 100 pixels, I can easily set this as fixed size. So I'm just gonna set it to be 50 by 50. And also gonna dock it to the top and make sure that it's centered. Cool, we're almost there. Now we need a menu bar and change some of the settings in here. So I'm just gonna add another element. This time it's gonna be a menu. We have some hamburger menus that we can use here. And I'm just gonna select this option because I think it looks pretty cool. I'm gonna rotate it 90 degrees. And again, using the docking system, I'm just gonna align it right to the middle. Cool. Once we click on the hamburger menu, we can open that menu just to set it up however we want to. So if we ever decide that we wanna change the fonts in here, maybe use a different font or a specific font for my theme, I can go ahead and do that. I can change the spacing in here. If I need to move any buttons around, maybe I don't like this on the corner, I can go ahead and just change the docking and set this to be 30 pixels from that side. And we can easily reposition the elements and adjust them using the inspector panel. Cool, so pretty much set. Now what I need this to do is, regardless of my design, I want this bar here to always stay like sticky, always pinned on the same place. So I'm gonna click on it and I'm gonna change the position type into pinned, meaning it's always gonna stay on the same place. Even if I have to scroll down a lot, we always get to see the same thing. I'm also gonna select right here for it to overlap the next section, because I want to get that feeling that the images stretches all over. And coming here on the design tab, I'm just gonna put like a 50% background. So we have that vibe, like a semi-translucent menu bar. Cool, so it's looking like we're doing good. Let's basically check out our design on the different breakpoints. So on desktop, it's looking good. Once we get to tablet, we're gonna see that it's automatically gonna adjust. And once we get to mobile, this design actually doesn't work so well, because on mobile, we usually have like a smaller real estate that we can use. So maybe I wanna switch that into a horizontal navigation. So on the mobile version, I'm gonna select this bar and select Don't Display. I wanna hide it. And I'm actually gonna go here into my layers panel and bring the original header that we hid in the beginning back. So this is only gonna display on the mobile version. And I'm gonna quickly replace here the logos and make the adjustments so this looks decent. So changing the vector art again, I'm gonna fetch my logo in here. I'm gonna resize this because I want this to be 50 and 50. For the header, that's a bit big, like 100 pixels. So I'm actually just gonna set this to be 70 pixels. And I also want this to always be pinned to the top. So again, I'm gonna pin it. I'm gonna overlap, and I'm gonna add some background color so we have that effect. So we can see here that our design, it's gonna automatically adjust. On desktop and tablet, we're gonna have a vertical menu. And once we hop into mobile, we have something a little bit more fancy. For everything that we did here so far, we do have the animations and all those elements. If you want to center everything here, we can. So I could very well just come here and make changes on the mobile version to make sure everything is center aligned and looking nice. Once you do this, just make sure that you also go into your interactions and you adjust the interactions as well. So clicking here, all we need to do is make the small adjustments, center everything, and should be good to go. Everything centered and looking nice. Cool. So what I'll do now is I'll jump into building the portfolio page. And this is going to be super simple, quick and easy, I promise. So getting back into editing the site, I'm going to go ahead and click here on pages to add a new page into my site. So this is going to be my portfolio page. And again, I don't want to have this header on this page. I'm actually not going to display this. And I have already created a header for this portfolio page. So clicking here on the add button, I can jump into my design assets, and anything I have already designed, I can reuse on any site. So I'm just going to use the portfolio header that I created. I'm going to attach that to the page. I know it looks similar, but it has a different hamburger menu here on the corner. And basically for this section, I'm going to use some compositions so we can speed up the process of creating. So here on compositions, in the about section, I did see something that I kind of liked. So I'm going to use this one right here. And I want to change the colors in here because this black, it's a bit too heavy. Oops, let me just fix the order of the elements. Let me add this again on the bottom. Over here. Okay. And I'm going to change the colors right here because this is too dark for my website. So selecting the text, I'm just going to edit it and I'll make it black. And I'm going to change the button color as well. And for this section here, I'm just going to remove this black background because I don't need it. This section here on top, I'm just going to delete. So we already have the About Us section here. Cool thing that we can do here is add some parallax effect. This is going to really make the images that you have on your site pop up. So selecting that middle image, we can go into the settings. And we're going to have an option for scroll behavior right here. So instead of none, I'm actually going to change this into parallax effect. Cool. So as we scroll, we should see that this image in the middle kind of like has some effect on it. Cool. Let's get back into the design here so we can check what we did. So on the portfolio page, I did add this section. And then on the bottom right here, I'm going to have this other part with all the details of my project. So let's hop back. And this is actually another pre-built section. So let's go into compositions. And inside of portfolio, we have different options that you can use. And those are all drag and drop, pre-made, all set to work. So I'm just going to select this bottom one here. I'm going to change the background again because I'm going for the all white vibe. And what we'll see right here on this bottom part is that this element right here is the layouter. What the layouter does is basically adjusts automatically into every breakpoint. So you will see that I'll need to do no settings in here. And this is automatically going to start stacking all the elements that I have. So a cool thing about the layouter is that if you want to interfere on how it's going to display on the different breakpoints, I can actually come in here, change the layout, and I can set this to be a slider. So on my mobile version, I'm going to have those elements stacking. And over here, I'll be able to slide between the different images from my portfolio. Again, that took me 2 minutes. And if I can do it, you guys can do it as well. Cool. So all we need to do now is go back into our homepage, link our portfolio. to the portfolio page. And we're done, guys. That's it. A few minutes, we got the website done. If you guys want to add more pages, add a contact form, add anything, it's pretty straightforward. You guys are also going to have the compositions that are not only good to use, but also to understand how everything is set up. And again, inside of Academyx, we have a lot of cool videos that you guys can watch to learn more about all the features of EditorX. Cool. So let me go ahead and just share a few links in here real quick. Where are my links? I miss my links. Let me find my links. Grace, you have anything that you want to share? I mean, I know Maria has the coupons. I don't know, Maria, if you want to go ahead and put that on the chat or if you already did.
I just in time posted them. they're up there, folks. Yeah.
Cool. Let me find a few links so you guys can have access to all the cool stuff.
Yeah, it's like 50% off, so it's pretty cool. And yeah, we can also, just save the link. And then also join the EditorX community group too.
Cool. So I guess we can open for QA, yeah?
Yeah, sure. Before we go into QA, we usually do a group photo. And so if anyone, feel free to drop any questions in the chat during. And thank you, Maria, for being so active and like answering a lot of EditorX questions. I'm sure everybody's really appreciate it. Let's turn on our camera. If y'all want to be in a group photo, totally optional, but you can also react if you don't want to turn on your camera, so you can be in there as well. Yeah, I'm gonna count down 10 seconds if y'all want to turn on your camera or not. It is optional, but we also like to do a group photo in a way for Instagram story before we hop into questions. And during this time, definitely drop any other like questions you have in the chat too, and we'll be addressing them very shortly. So I'm going to count down 10 seconds. Feel free to grab any object you want. Sometimes I have Fluffle here with me. I have like a stuffed animal. And so we like to spice things up over at Design Buddies because, we like to just be different than other communities, because we're the buddies. And so I'm going to count down 10 seconds. You can even like bring a bear. I have a very nice bear with me. Anything you want in my countdown. So y'all can help us spice things up. All right, 10, 9, 8, 7. I'll do a group static one first and then a wave, and then I'll take a couple and choose the one where everybody looks the best in. So 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Smile. Or say EditorX or Design Buddies. Awesome. We're going to do a wave for Instagram story. And yes, it is on YouTube. I just saw the question at design.buddy. So feel free to wave, dance down, whatever you want. All right. Ready, set, wave. Hello, buddies. We just finished an awesome building no-code websites using EditorX with Vicky. Thank you, buddies, for coming, and make sure you check out our recording on our YouTube channel. Cool. So I've been posting some Instagram stories, so make sure you check them all out. All right, cool. Let's hop into some questions. Any other questions from our buddies here? I'm gonna scroll to make sure you didn't miss any. And if Vicky or Maria or Edu have, I see Riza. Yeah, feel free. I'll unmute you if you want to ask your question too. Yeah, feel free to raise your hand as well. We like to give additional options for people to ask the questions however they want. Riza, I just asked to unmute. Does anyone else have any other questions?
I have a couple of questions, Grace, that I took note of during the session. One question was, is there a way to automatically set docking to percentage instead of pixels?
Yeah, what docking will do, it will automatically be set for top and bottom as pixels and left and right as percentage, but you're free to change that. And once you change it, it's just gonna hold on to that setting that you did. And if you already docked the element and you want to move it around and you don't want the auto docking to take effect, what you can do is while you click on that element and move it around, just hold Command on your keyboard, and this is going to avoid the auto docking, change the docking settings that you already created.
Nice, thanks, Vicky.
Yeah, another question is, how do we create a custom domain with Editor X? I know it's something that people use really often for their portfolio sites. From Tanya.
A custom what? I sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Oh, a custom domain.
A custom domain. Yeah, that's super easy because inside of Wix itself, you can just click to purchase a domain. Any Wix site that you guys open, it's automatically gonna come with a free Wix domain, but if you wanna add your own domain, you can either connect it if it's on an external source, or you can purchase through the Wix website and you can have your domain set up in a few minutes.
That's awesome. I know when I was connecting the first domain, it was a pain.
To connect a domain, just quickly mention this. To connect your own customized domain, you are going to need a premium plan. So yeah, just go ahead, take advantage. Since we have coupons, like, why not just use it?
Yeah, it's 50% off too. Cool. Oh, there's a lot of questions. So Shantrina asked, is there a way to transfer information from Squarespace or maybe like any other platforms to Editor X, or do we have to recreate the whole site from scratch?
Actually, what we can do is, if you guys use Figma, we actually have a way of importing all the Figma designs into Editor X. So Figma would be an option. And then if you have a website externally on WordPress or Squarespace, you would have to redesign the site from scratch.
Oh, wow, that's awesome. Like, always looking for that Figma to like live site integration. Yeah, so Zell asks, if you already have an Editor X website, but want to change the design completely, like using their template, would you be able to do that?
What you can do, we don't have the option of changing templates just yet. I don't want to give any spoilers, but you can use the design tab to make sure you change typography, colors through that, and that's going to affect the entire site. So using that design tab where we have typography, once you change the typography there, any theme text that you're using, it's just going to change throughout the entire site. So that's an easy way of changing the design a little bit without having to go on each element.
Awesome. So Alex asks, what if you have a Wix website with a customer domain? Can I switch to Editor X and keep my domain?
Yeah, you can switch to Editor X. And once you have a website on Wix, you can actually assign the custom domain you have to any specific sites on your account. So you're free to move a domain from one site into another.
Awesome. I'm just reading the questions for our buddies watching on YouTube, and they're recording too, so they have access to it. Carver asks, will the themes manager be able to support pre-existing text scaling at some point?
I hope so. That's on my wish list, definitely.
Nice. Oh, Zealous, if you already have a premium plan, can the coupons still apply?
The premium plans for the regular Wix websites are different pricing from the Editor X one. So it depends on the premium plan that you have.
Let's see. Tanya asked, how are Wix and Editor X related?
Well, Wix, it's the original platform where everything started. We here at Wix, we call the classic editor the OG editor, the original gangster. And then Editor X just came in later. as a really fully responsive platform creation. So it's just a different editor, but it's all within the same Wix environment.
Awesome. Oh yeah, thank you for posting the coupon link. We can also post it in the Discord afterwards as well, but there's like a limit to it, so make sure you utilize it soon. Yeah, and Kimberly asked, is it possible to import posts from WordPress to the blog feature?
Yeah, we have an option of importing blog posts from WordPress. So yeah, you can do that on the classic editor. I'm pretty sure you can do it on the editor as well.
Awesome. And Zealous, is there a tutorial to import Figma files on Academyx?
It's, I believe, in the community, or I've seen posts in the community about that. So check Academyx, go into community, and over there you can search on the forum. We have the step-by-step.
Awesome. That's like really a cool feature. And Stevie asks, how do you make the button text responsive? I know the button resizes, but what about the text inside it?
Yeah,
I'm assuming the one homepage.
Yeah, the button, the text inside of it will not automatically resize for now. But what you can do is once you get to a smaller breakpoint, if you want to hide that button, so don't display that button, and add another button with different settings in terms of scaling text and different colors or anything, you can replace that button to a smaller text button on the smaller breakpoint.
Awesome. Maria, did we also miss any other questions from earlier in the chat?
No, I think we've covered most of them. Yeah, I think that's everything.
Awesome. Cool. So any other questions from our buddies here? And if you want to make your own website, definitely share it. We have some design sharing channels on Discord where you're welcome to. So I'll resync with our host to see like when we want to share the discount link on Discord, but I know it's limited, so it's shared in the chat right now. It might be shared in other places, but recommend using saving that link too.
Yeah, and if anybody has any additional questions, come on over to our Facebook group and to the Academyx community as well, guys. There's loads of really clever people there who are ready to answer questions, and also you can go through our forum to find the answers to some of those things that you were asking about as well. So yeah, come on over and say hi. I'll post the links again in the chat.
Yeah, I just joined. You got approved really quick, so join. Awesome. Any other questions before we wrap up today? If not, then you know where to ask questions. And yes, the recording is available on YouTube, which is in our Discord community, in the social updates channel, but I'll just drop the link so y'all have it as well. So in case you missed any of it, there's a recording. Yeah, cool. If there's no more questions, we'll see you at our next event next week. And yeah, and thanks Maria for dropping the link. If you have any more questions, make sure to ask there or the forum. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming. We're going to we're going to end the recording now, unless there's anything, Vicky, Maria, Edu, anything else you want to say before we end our event for today?
Just thank you for having me. Thanks everybody for joining, and a big shout out to my Wix family.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm sure this was super helpful. We have buddies already using Editor X, so yeah, cool. Well, thank you everyone. I'm gonna end the